everybody. Real honor to be with you actually for two reasons. One, this is one of the most consequential strategic conversations happening in our nation's capital these days when it comes to the future of American energy policy. And the second reason is I got a little history. So about 20 years ago, when I was just starting an organization called the Bipartisan Policy Center with General Chuck Wald and other friends in the room, I was also introduced to a kind of strange guy named Robbie Diamond, and over the course of 90 minutes decided to provide SAFE with one of its first significant grants that we partnered together to create the oil shockwave, which I think was demonstrated on some of the promotional material. And that helped begin an era of my participation on the SAFE board, and really just remarkable to see the progress that this organization has made. It is equally remarkable to see how much has changed in those 20 years. During SAFE's short lifetime, our nation has gone from concern about dependence and economic fragility to a moment where we see tremendous opportunities for strength and economic might through abundance. And with optimism, I will suggest to you that this moment of energy abundance puts us on the possible cusp of a new energy pragmatism, a moment in which we could set a course for the next decades of economic growth and national security. And at the same time, there is the ever-present risk that energy politics will yet again seize victory. Unfortunately, not victory, seize defeat from the jaws of victory. So I want to share with you a couple of reasons why I believe there is momentum for energy pragmatism and some of the challenges that we face. The first is technology. We have had incredible maturation of technology, from fossil energy, from horizontal drilling to renewable power. And what we have found is that while all technologies have weaknesses, if we actually combine the best elements of the vast array of American energy resources, we can have an energy system that is clean and affordable and reliable and secure. And it turns out that Churchill was right. Strength is in variety and variety alone. If you look at our electric system, the regions of the country that have the most diverse set of resources are in fact the most reliable, providing the lowest consumer costs. And I think we find that there's a lot of opportunity, of course, to build on that strength. The second reason that there's a moment of potential pragmatism is that the energy industries actually come together, right? We have a business alignment around the fact that there is essentially one American energy industry. While I represent renewable power, my board contains the largest utilities in the country, international oil companies. In fact, 2/3 of all of the renewable power deployed in this country last year was deployed by companies with fossil assets. So we have seen a shift from conversations about regulation and taxation, which were dividing the country, to a focus on innovation and investment, which is really bringing, as I think you saw from the intro clips, the energy industry together around an all-of-the-above strategy. It's why the American Clean Power Association supported the key permitting elements of H.R. 1, and it's why my friends and colleagues in the oil and gas and nuclear industries all support the continuation of stable tax policy that rewards innovation and competition. Third, the war in Europe. Anybody who thinks that American energy production is not both a humanitarian and economic and political imperative, I think woke up when we started to see our allies in Europe literally struggle to keep warm. I think there is no question anymore that American production and export is essential to our role in the world. And finally, and maybe most significantly, skyrocketing demand and the competition for digital dominance. Skyrocketing demand clarifies the mind and focuses the thinking. For the last 2 decades, we've really had a flat energy demand. And that's provided a cushion for mediocre policy, right? When you don't have demand, the fact that the federal government can ping pong back and forth, bet against certain resources, you can kind of overcome mediocre policy if you have room in the system. Now we have the need for every single molecule and electron this country can produce. And we now find that the greatest threat to a reliable energy system is an unreliable political system. And that's where I want to focus the second half of my remarks, because we've got a lot of work to do. We unfortunately have a tradition in this country, somewhat bizarrely when you step back, in which molecules and electrons have political affiliations. Despite the fundamentals promoting an all-of-the-above energy strategy, Every change in our political leadership ushers in a new game of energy pong that undermines long-term investment and ultimately undermines economic growth. President Biden's advocacy for a 100% renewable grid in 10 years did not help the clean power sector, right? It created incredulity, it created resentment that we are now grappling with moving forward. But it does not serve the nation or the oil or gas or nuclear industry for this administration to replay unrealistic expectations of what any technology can do, whether it's coming speed to market or lowering consumer prices. The answer is as simple to describe as it is hard to achieve. We need federal policy to become the signal and not the noise in our energy system. And so what do we need them to do? Right? Over the next decade, we must add significant amounts of new gas capacity. We have to commercialize and deploy new nuclear technologies. We have to realize the tremendous potential of geothermal. And we have to extend the operating life of a lot of existing facilities that would have been retiring absent this demand shock. But we don't have a decade. The next 3 years will likely irrevocably mint whether the United States or China has digital dominance. Who creates the reserve currency for the AI future? And while 75% of our nation's grid is currently coal and gas and nuclear and hydro, the vast majority of new power that is shovel-ready are renewable resources. Over 90% of the power deployed last year in this country, 90% of the new electrons came from renewable resources. Over 95% of the power in the queue, AKA shovel-ready, are renewable resources. This might be an inconvenient truth for some, but it's the truth. If the current administration wants to see renewable resources as a bridge to natural gas, fine with me, right? We need all of it. But what we have to have is a pragmatic politics that recognizes the economic fundamentals. Because at the end of the day, the fundamentals tend to win out. It might surprise you that we produced and deployed more wind power in the Trump administration than the Biden administration. And I think most know that we produced more oil and gas in the Biden administration than the Trump administration. So there is always a reality where the politics of campaigning meet the pros of governing, where inherent conflicts in the aspirations of administration crash into the economic realities of what the nation needs. And I think we're at that moment now. And all we need is the government of the United States to do two things. Our government has to embrace all forms of American power. We can't leave it in the ground, we can't leave it in the reactor, we can't leave it in the river, we can't leave it in the wind, we can't leave it in the sun. We need it all. Secondly, we have to accelerate all forms of energy infrastructure. None of this matters if you can't bring power to the people. There was significant progress underway last year when the entire energy industry came together and built bipartisan momentum for significant permit reform legislation. We've lost that momentum, right? We're fighting now over tax policy and undoing things, and the pendulum is swaying wildly back and forth. We need to recenter the debate, and we need the federal government to work with the entire energy industry to make sure that we actually can put the power on the grid necessary to sustain the economy. So really a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the next panel where they are going to provide a lot more detail on how this is all going to work. Thanks a lot.